an idea on my way home that I thought of yesterday. I think I mentioned it a little bit on my live yesterday, but I have my ideas become more concrete when I sleep on them and I figure things out that way. So, yesterday I was speaking to the project manager for One Iota. And for those who don't know what the project manager does, I can't even say I fully know what the project manager does, but I can say what I do know about her is that she said that she responds to a lot of the casting emails. And she said yesterday that Tamron Hall is looking for stories. You know how they have the featured stories? She said the Tamron Hall show is desperately looking for stories from people. And I have a story, right? I actually went on the Tamron Hall show one time. I mean, not as in as a guest, but I've been there plenty of times as an audience member. But one of the times I was there as an audience member, there was a guy that was there that has agoraphobia or had agoraphobia and went through this big process on how he got out of the agoraphobia. And then, excuse me, and then he spoke about how he wasn't leaving his house and how he couldn't drive, and there was all kinds of different parts to the story. And I was thinking to myself, I'm watching my story because I have that story. I didn't know that there's people who are actually interested in hearing that kind of thing on TV. So as I was talking to this project manager and hearing that Tamron Hall is looking for stories, I said to myself, you know what I should do? Now that that person freshly remembers me, she remembers me from last time, but she freshly remembers me because she just saw me yesterday. I should take some time out today to write out a version of my story. Everything from the psych ward, all that stuff, and send that out to her. And see if she would be willing to feature me as one of the guests, because not every guest that they have is a celebrity. Some of the guests that they have are ordinary people with extraordinary stories, of which I feel like I am one. People tell me this all the time because I've gotten to the point where I casually throw my story out, because I never throw my story out to anyone for clout, for recognition, for anything like that. When relevant, when I see that my story is something that can assist somebody who's going through some kind of struggle, I tell them, like, this is what I've been through, and they're like, wow, I would never know the way that you are now. I would just never know that that was your path or your experience in life. And I'm like, it was very real. Like, the life that I live now, even the bad days that I have, it feels surreal that I was able to get out of that really, really, really dark place that I used to be in, and now be somebody who is a light to others. So that's where I'm at with it right now. I think that when I get off work today, I'm gonna take some time to write out my story and be like, I want to have a story featured. I want to be a featured guest on Tamron Hall. Here is my reasons why, and see where it goes from there. Because I don't see any reason why I should not be picked. I've seen so many different guests over these years that I've been going to these things, and half the time I'm like, what's the difference between them and me? I mean, I know everybody's story is unique, but I look at some of the stories and I'm like, my story is really an amazing story, and you don't hear me say that often. The reason I say it's an amazing story is if you trace my life back to 2012, I'm living an ordinary life at that point. I just graduated from school not that long ago. I got my business degree. I got out of school. I started this job. I moved out my folks' house. I'm moving along and I'm living my life. And next thing you know, I start getting these terrible, scary panic attacks. It leads me down having major depression, major anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia, to the point where I don't leave my house for almost a year. And I am so depressed. I'm going to bed every night. Like, I don't want to wake up in the morning. Because the life that I was living was not the life that I knew, and it was not the life that I expected. Matter of fact, I just left one of my clients who was telling me something about their life and where they are now, which sounds similar. Not exactly the same, but there's similar factors in it as to what I experienced at that time. I lost so much weight. At one point, I was weighing 115 pounds. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I was getting terrible stomach pains. Life was just, I couldn't see any kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And I worked really hard between therapy and self-work and gym work and just regaining my life. It took years. It took years to get where I am now. It wasn't just some overnight process. I'll never lie, and I'll never tell people that it was some kind of quick, easy thing. It was so hard. Hardest thing ever. But now I'm at the point where I'm sitting here talking to you about what I consider this like first world problems. When I tell you that I have problems with my job and with my pay and with boundary setting with client, like all that stuff. There was a time in my life a decade ago where I would kill for a better expression to have the life that I do have now. But I don't want to leave this earth without getting the proper opportunity to explain this to the world, because I do this a little bit within my platform of my job. I do this a little bit with my little YouTube platform, but I really want to get this story out to a broader audience. And I'm not just someone who wants to just tell the story and then just go and live my life. I have a desire to be a motivational speaker. I was thinking the other day, what happens if I do some interview on my page and it blows up and all of a sudden, Mark is the go-to guy for like Big Brother content, or the go-to guy for challenge content. I mean, that's not necessarily an end goal for me, to be completely honest, because even when I talk to these people, I'm not like the challenge guru or like the Big Brother guy who just lives, eats, and breathes Big Brother. I am interested in the shows. Don't get me wrong. I'm interested in the characters, the people on the show, but I'm more interested in questions about their psyche. I'm not necessarily like, oh, how did you feel when you were picking up Johnny Bananas and walking with him during Hall Brawl? That's a fun question to ask. When I met CT though, I didn't even ask him that. I didn't ask him about Hall Brawl. I didn't ask him about Johnny Bananas. I didn't ask him about Adam, punching Adam in the face, Davis. I didn't ask him about any of that. The first thing that came out of my mouth was to talk to him about how he has coped with loss. And I couldn't even believe that that's what I was talking to him about, because if you asked me like 2, 3 years ago, hey, if you ever get a chance to talk to CT, what are you going to talk to CT about? I would think that I would talk to CT about all those things. Yo, I was jumping up and down when you picked up with Johnny Bananas. Like, what was it like when you were in Paris and you got into this fight with Adam in Paris, and your tumultuous relationships with this person and that person. Like, what was it like when you were hooking up with half the house? Like, I would think that those are the things that I would be asking, but as a grown 36-year-old man at the time when I met him, was I 36? 35. I was 35 when I met CT. Yeah. So at that point, like, I had deeper interest in life. So that's the reason why we spoke beyond that kind of surface level things that most people ask them. So yeah, like, end goal, I don't really have a goal of, oh, if I talk to this person and then I get a big fan base based on interviewing this person, and now I'm going to be the go-to person for that. That's one avenue. And as a matter of fact, as an avenue, my former life coach Shar told me that she believes in the 80-20 rule, which I had previously only heard of in context of fitness, health. 80% exercise, 80% nutrition, 20% exercise. That's the context that I had always heard it in before. So, in her context, she said that's the rule that she uses in her life: 80% positivity and 20% negativity. Because it's inevitable that we are going to have some negativity in our life. Now, controlled negativity, that is, because there's some negativity that we don't ask for and we can't control. But the type of negativity that I'm talking about is like, okay, when I get in my car, this is the example that she used, like gangster rap music. She was like, if I put that on in my car, that's part of my 20% quota. Like, it can be negative, it can be toxic, and I can be, or like, I want to watch Real Housewives of Atlanta or something like that, right? It's part of my 20%. It feeds that part of me, but I'm very aware what that is for me and what that represents. So, yeah, so that was basically my thing that I wanted to share. I'm going to be putting that together. I mean, something might come of it, something might come of it, but it would be cool if I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, really, because sitting in the audience as a guest, I love that. Cool. And many people have seen me on these shows at this point. Mark, I saw you in the audience when they interviewed Alfonso Ribeiro. Or I saw you in the audience when they were interviewing XYZ, whatever person. I saw you in the audience of the Steve Wilkos show. That's cool. But I'm more than an audience member that just sits in there, dresses up, and you see me in the background. I'm cool with the background. Don't get me wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't have kept going back. But a part of me listens to these stories sometimes and says to myself, Mark, you have an inspirational story as well that you are just hiding because you're just not afraid, but you just don't think that that story is powerful enough, is important enough. You don't think that, I think that sometimes I think that if I were to get on that stage and platform, I don't know how to express myself. I think that people would think that what I have to say might be boring because it's not the type of drama, because people thrive on watching, listening to things that are highly dramatic and in some cases toxic. So self-doubts, I guess those are all like self-doubts when it comes to stepping out and doing things like this. But this one seems to make sense to me. And it's not that I said I'm shopping the story everywhere, specifically Tamron Hall. It's funny that I have developed such a liking for Tamron Hall, because I tell people this story. When I first got my ticket for Tamron Hall, I never watched her show a day in my life. I got in the audience and I looked around. There had to be about less than 5 men in the whole audience that day. And she starts off the show. She was like, "Ladies, this show is going to be all about menopause." And I was like, wow, what a first Tamron Hall show for me to ever be a part of. The show where the topic is menopause. It's like, what am I doing here? She made me feel so comfortable in that audience. I tell you, between the commercial breaks, at the beginning, at the end, she got in a video with me. Like, it was so fun. And I just really, and like, compared to other people that I see doing the interviews, Tamron always has this tissue box with her, and they call it like Tamron's tears. She talks to, let's say she gets I don't know, Prince Charles sitting in her chair. She's gonna talk to Prince Charles the same as she's gonna talk to Joe Schmo from down the street that she has never met in her life, that they just briefed her on their story. Like, she has this like humbleness about her, and this way that she's just really, really, to me, she's just so good with her guests. You know, like, she makes them feel comfortable. I've seen people there that have a lot of confidence. I've